Hey, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you one of my favorite tricks for creating really cool guitar parts, and it's all about the use of repetition and syncopation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play a couple of ideas over a 5-2-4-1 progression in a key of E. You can see what these ideas look like and hear what they sound like, and then afterwards we're going to break them down note for note. Now, just a word of caution here, in a live situation I'll never play all four of these ideas right after each other. Instead, this is a teaching moment to show you the power of repetition and what you can do with carefully placed notes with the use of syncopation. And then afterwards, I'm going to show you how you can take some of these ideas and then go ahead and develop them into your own parts and into your own playing. So let's go ahead and check out the part right now.
4.
Alright, so there you go. We did 1, 2, 3, 4 different parts. And obviously, as you would have noticed, it's a lot of repetition, number 1, and it's a lot of syncopation, number 2, and there's a fair bit of articulation, number 3. But let's go ahead and cover all 3 of those elements right now. Just again, a reminder, you'll never play all 4 of these ideas right after each other. It's too similar, and it's also a little bit too much. You'll have to take the ideas and then fit them into a song that you are playing so you can use it in a musical way, number 1. And number 2, you want to add value to the overall song and not really make it a guitar fest, when you're playing worship on stage. It can easily turn into that if you don't use these skills with caution. All right, now our first example, the concept kind of is like this. If we were to do a bit of a thought experiment, let's just say I want you to write a guitar part, but I'm going to give you a limited amount of notes. What can you do with that limited amount of notes? So in our very first part, we pretty much used 3 notes that I then repeated over and over, and then I just added in 2 additional notes at 2 different times just for some variety. So using just 3 notes, I can come up with a part like this. So it's a super simple part, and I'll show it to you right now, a note for note. It's literally just fret 5 and 4 on the B string, and then fret 4 on the G. So here it is without reverb or delay. And if I add in the reverb and delay, it's going to sound like this. Now, of course, it adds a lot of space, and those delays do some interesting things. They interplay between the notes that I'm playing and then the delayed notes. But we're not really focusing on the tone today, instead just the part. Now, the first thing I mentioned is repetition. The second thing is syncopation, and the third thing is articulation. So with repetition, you can almost take any line with a good rhythm that you add behind it, and then you can repeat it over and over. What that's going to do is two things. For the listener, it's going to give them something to latch onto, number one. And number two, as your chords change when you play the different, the progression, the notes will actually change as well. What I mean by that is when I play the E note, for example, over a B chord, then it's a sus4. That same E note over the F sharp minor will be a minor seventh, a flat seventh. The E note will be the fifth over A, and the E note will be the root over E. So all that means is that the quality or the perception of that note changes depending on the underlying chord. We've got a whole video that unlocks the mystery of melody like that. We'll link to it in the description. But those are the two things that are happening. Even though you are playing the same notes over and over, every time there's a chord change, it changes the vibe and the color and the sound of those notes, because the context over which you're playing them is constantly changing. So even though it's remaining the same rhythmic pattern, as I'm playing it over and over and the chord changes are happening, that same idea sounds different. So it's almost like a juxtaposition, gives you something to latch onto, but it also changes around. The second thing after repetition is syncopation. Now, I wrote the rhythm down here in order for me to see it, but if I have to clap it, it'll go like this. A 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. So it's a very syncopated rhythm without me counting it. I'm just going to clap it. So that's a syncopated line that's going to really stand out and work well within the rest of the groove. What does syncopation mean? Well, in short, it's when you put accents on some of the weaker beats in the bar. You've ever heard of people clapping on 1 and 3? That sounds terrible. But beats 1 and 3, those are some of your two strongest beats within the bar. But if you clap on 2 and 4, which is where the snare drum hits happen with a typical rock drum groove, it starts to feel a lot better. Now, in addition to all the other notes, if I have 16 potential notes within a bar, I can then focus a lot more on those up beats. So in this case, the 2 E and a 3 E and a. So as you can see, it almost like bounces around a little bit, and then with a delay, it creates a really cool sound. If you want to get the tabs of this, where we've literally written this out for you, go ahead and check out the link in the description and just let us know where to send it. We'll send you the track that I'm jamming over together with the notes and the tabs and the rhythms written out for you as well. So that's the second thing, syncopation. And then the third and final thing is articulation. Now, articulation is a combination of hammer-ons, slides, pull-offs, bending, and vibrato. So a hammer-on will be, and then I hammer on to the next note. A pull-off is when I pick the note and I pull off to the previous note. Can you hear that sounds much smoother? Or instead of picking every note, if you use hammer-ons and pull-offs, it sounds a lot smoother. Same with slides. And you have vibrato and bending as well. Now in this case, I started it with, you can see I did a pull-off there. Now in this instance, I'm only using one note from articulation point of view. The other examples had more. But let's quickly go over this slowly note for note so that you can go ahead and put that together over the track yourself. So 4 on the G, 5, 4 on the B, then again 4 on the G, then 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 4, 5. So if I put that in groups of 4, that's my first one, then, and then the last 3 notes, the first 4 notes, the second 4 notes, and then the last 3 notes. Doesn't sound like much, but when I add in my delay and I play it consistently. One more time. then you can really hear what that does. What you can do, in one instance I cheated a little bit and I added additional notes. So I went from just these three by adding in the F sharp. So your ear will sometimes tell you, let's throw in something in there that's not part of the original pattern, just for a bit of melodic interest. And then for the final part, that's what I did. 4, 6, 4. When you do something that is syncopated like this, and I'm kind of playing against a rhythm, or you've got notes that you repeat over and over, it creates tension. And if there's too much tension without resolution, it's going to be too chaotic. We need to go back to a level of order. That's where resolution happens. So that's why I put that phrase at the end. And that just kind of puts a bow on that idea. It's a bookend, I wrap it up, and then I can go again. So whenever you do these kind of repetitive stuff, just know that inherently it's going to bring some tension, and you have to resolve that at some point. All right, so we've taken that idea, which is really just these three notes, and then I moved up to this area of the guitar neck, and I played the following part. So you can probably see the repetitive nature of the idea. First of all, there's repetition. Secondly, it's syncopated. And thirdly, there's more articulation. And then, of course, I use a resolution at the end. So this one is quite simple. It's just 7. I'll play without the delay. So all that is fret 7 on the B, then 9 pulls off to 8, and then 9 on the D. And by the way, it starts with a 9 on the D. So there's that idea repeated twice. But I'm starting it on an upbeat, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E. So I'm starting on the upbeat, which brings in the syncopation. And then which is the third time. So the first time, the second time, the third time, and then I just repeat that over and over. And then obviously after I repeat the idea 3 times, then I just end it with this resolution, which is 8, 9 on the G, 7 on the E. All right, so that was that idea, the second idea I did. The third idea was this one. So this one we featured on the channel a lot, and people ask typically, you know, to break that note or that thing down. Again, my starting notes, remember, if you're only given a handful of notes, the first one was these 3. The second one, it was these 4. And then the third one, it's those 4. So it's just 4 notes that I'm repeating over and over. And in this instance, I'm playing 9 on the B, 9, 11 on the G, 9 on the D. Those are my notes. And you can hear a lot of the upbeats. It's very bouncy because of the syncopated nature. This one we had repetition. We did not have any articulation except for when I did the fill, which is pick, hammer, pick. But we had repetition, we had syncopation, and a little bit of articulation. So that was our third idea that we played. And then there was a bit of a break This final one is something that you use it carefully, because you don't want to kind of turn into a shred fest on a Sunday morning. But in the right moment, it can really add a lot of excitement. It can really serve a very particular purpose there. So the final idea, in terms of notes, first of all, let's just say I could only play those 6 notes. Now I know one more note and it's a full scale, but it's the pattern that I'm playing over here. So then I played this idea. Alright, I cheated a little bit. It's not exactly just those 6 notes, but remember all of them had the 3 notes, and then here and there I added an additional note for some variety and some melodic interest. So all I'm doing here, this one features the repetition. So it's a repetitive idea with this. That's kind of my cluster of notes that I'm repeating. And then I'm using lots of articulation. There's many notes here. If we count them, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes, but I'm only picking twice. So check that out. Because of articulation, which is my combination of hammer-ons and pull-offs, I can get 8 notes with only 2 picks. Alright, so that's my idea there. And then, so it's the same picking idea that I'm doing there. And again, if you want to get the tabs with the rhythms tabbed out and the track, the link is in the description. You can go ahead and grab that. There's a nice slide. And the reason I'm going up to A is because the chord there is F sharp minor, and I know that A is my minor third. So there's even just one pick. And then I get all those notes from there. Then for the A chord, I'm going to end on the C sharp, because that's my major third of C. And then just a pick pull from 16 to 12 for the E chord. So that's quite a fun little part that you can do. And as you can see, whether I'm playing down here, or up here in the middle, or whether I'm playing over here, or whether I'm playing all the way up here. You can really go ahead and experiment a lot. So bunch of ideas for you that you can go ahead and use as an idea within a guitar part that you can develop. You can use it as a motif. So as a recap, we limited ourselves to a couple of notes. So either 3 notes, 4 notes, or 6 notes in one example. Then we took those limited amount of notes, much like the 2 fishes and 5 loaves, and we try and multiply the musical ideas that we can get from that. And we're doing that through repetition, through articulation, and then through syncopation. And if you go ahead and take those ideas and just find some of these sweet spots that are really hidden here on the fretboard. They're not really hidden, but because once you know where they are, you know where they are. And that's a great way to get a part that you can play something that the congregation can really latch onto. It adds value, and it's not necessarily a shred fest. And of course, that's up to debate as well. Different people will have different tastes, but that's one of the things I use in my playing a lot, and get a lot of mileage out of a very simple idea like that. So if you want to get the tabs, go ahead and check it out in the description. We'll also send over the track. And if you want to kind of dive deeper into understanding the mystery of how the same note can actually sound different depending on which chord you play it over, go ahead and check out this video, which will really unpack that whole idea for you, so you don't just blindly play notes, but you actually know which notes fit over which chords. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.